right, welcome back, everybody. I am Ryan, and I am joined this time by my co-host, Joey the Mouth, which makes this movie Howl. And I want to start out this time because I'm thinking maybe you're not getting the message since it's hidden all the way at the end, but we really want to hear from you. We have a Twitter, we're at MovieHowl. We have an email address, moviehowl@gmail.com, and I have volunteered my own Twitter, which is @manpanda. We just want to hear what you like about the show, what you don't like, why you're listening if you are listening, what would make you listen more. So just any feedback, really. Any requests, Joe?
I mean, just keep listening. If you like us, listen. If you think we're dumbasses, yeah, keep listening anyways. Like, whatever.
And we want suggestions, too, if there's something specific you want. Like, I think we'll probably do a recap after the end of the series, Birdman and Metal Arm Boy, as I heard somebody else refer to it.
Okay.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Birdman, Metal Arm Boy. I like it.
But yeah, we're looking for suggestions. We want to do what you want us to do. So that being said, we're going to get into this review, which is a palate cleanser. We kind of talked about that we need something in between the Lighthouse and anything heavier. So we decided to go with the Hitman's Bodyguard, since that, it has a sequel coming out fairly soon, I believe. And it's a movie that I totally missed, and kind of when I started watching it, I wondered, how did I miss this? It's got Samuel Jackson, Ryan Reynolds, Selma Hayek,
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Yeah.
He came out of nowhere. I did not know he was in it. And when you see him and you see it's Gary Oldman playing your bad guy, you're in for a good time.
Yep. I don't know. Do you want to get into it? Do you want to start us off? We can give this is a 2017 movie, but we can go over the general synopsis of it and give some recommendations before we get into anything too spoilery.
Sure. As far as what this movie ends up being about, the basics of it, you have this top-notch bodyguard, really doing well in his career. Something happens that puts him from the top to closer towards the bottom, scraping that bottom of the barrel again, kind of thing. And a situation is brought about that he gets called upon to be a bodyguard to this hitman who needs to be brought to a trial to put a bad guy away for life, kind of a thing. And it's really a buddy cop style movie. It almost reminded me a lot of Die Hard with a Vengeance, because that was the Die Hard with Sam Jackson. And it happened to be my favorite of the Die Hard movies, probably because the two that came before it, I was a little young for. And so I wasn't as hardcore into those. But when the third one came out, I was at just the right age. I really liked it. And I still think it's a great movie as is. You've got, that one had Jeremy Irons as a bad guy. It was well done. But this is similar to that style. And there's some things that happen that are, I'm going to say this, there's nothing in this movie that you haven't seen in other movies. But it's just done really well. It's funny, it's action-packed, and according to some of the characters, I mean, if you break it all the way down, this is basically a love story.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah. It's a story about friendship. It's a story about loyalty, love, forgiveness. You're talking about things that it reminds you of, and it reminded me of, I haven't seen Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Oh, that's great.
But what I kept thinking of was movies like Night and Day with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz.
Yeah.
These fun movies that are like on the run, doing spy stuff. They've got some light moments. They've got some heavy moments. I really love that this movie was paced so well. There were a lot of, there's a lot of different kinds of scenes. And I feel like there wasn't really any waste. There were no points where it was just rushed or there were scenes thrown that didn't matter. The movie was allowed to breathe where it needed to. There are certain there are certain bits of backstory you get that are allowed to go at their own pace and then blend back in. And to me, some of these moments even had the effect that you would have like in real life if you were kind of lost in thought for a second and then like came back into the real world. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I was kind of thinking about Night and Day in particular, and how you could make that better. And it's like, what if it was just two spies? And that's basically what this is. You know,
Yeah, I go
in
with
Night and
that.
Day, Tom Cruise is a spy. Cameron Diaz is the one who's brought into this unwittingly and like starts learning on the way. But this, both of the main people who we're following the whole time are very proficient at what they do. They're super, super fun to watch. They have different styles. They play off each other way better than I would have thought. Who would thought Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson would work that well together?
What? Who wouldn't think that? That was what I thought when I first heard of this movie. And when I heard it was coming out in theaters, I originally saw the preview for it. I'm thinking, oh, I want to see this. Just those two guys. Like, they're great.
Yeah,
So,
but I
what?
never thought they would have the chemistry they had. They were fantastic. They were so good.
So good. Well,
I
and it
mean,
was, you have Sam Jackson playing, and I don't want to be like the funny guy and the straight guy, which it was kind of that, but I think it's more realistically explained as you have a carefree attitude, just play it by ear, go with the flow. That's life. That's how it goes. And a very hard line. I make plans. I know what's going on. I want to know how it's going to happen, how it's going to play out, because I planned for every eventuality. And so you have Ryan Reynolds as the planner and Sam Jackson being the play it by ear guy. And it did work. They worked very well together.
yeah. Yeah, and in some ways it almost reminded me, God, it was just so good. It reminded me of Mission Impossible movies. Like we had talked before about Ghost Protocol.
Mm-hmm.
You know, same sort of thing.
Hey,
Two,
you got the
two
name right this
spies.
time. Good for
Yeah, I
you.
did. I actually looked it up to make sure I got it right. Two spies, because that one had two spies,
Yep.
right? It
I
wasn't.
think
It
so.
wasn't just. Yeah, it wasn't just Tom Cruise. There was Jeremy Renner, who, spoilers, has a history as a spy, so he starts doing some cool spy stuff too. God, yeah, you texted me that this was the perfect palate cleanser after the Lighthouse because of how that movie was, and you're
I
right.
stand by that statement.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like, I can't remember the last time I laughed so much during a movie. And I actually did Google it just to see like what the general scores were, the general opinion of the movie. Not super high. It's like in the 40% on Rotten Tomatoes and just not
Really?
not that well regarded on some of those sites. And I don't know why that is. I think there are a lot of movies that get a raw deal like that, but there was virtually nothing in this movie I didn't like.
I
It was
mean,
just really fun. Like there was nothing that was like you're saying, it's nothing that's completely new, but it's not predictable either. There are
right. Agreed.
cliche moments that show up, but I'm sitting there thinking like I have no concept at all of what's going to happen because the whole movie has been played in a way that it doesn't just subvert your expectations to subvert them. It does it because the movie has its own particular style. The characters have a way that they're going to act, and what happens will make sense, but it's not going to be a cliche thing that you might think it's going to be. So,
Agreed.
that being said, this is 100% a watch for me. I actually bought it.
Did you really?
I ordered it on 4K Blu-ray because I liked it so much.
It was fantastic.
It was so fun.
It was everything that I wanted this to be in a movie. And based on this movie, I'm really looking forward to the sequel
Mm-hmm.
because I just want more of Selma Hayek's character in the sequel. She was realistically only in it a little bit, but oh my gosh, she was
Yeah.
fantastic.
She was so good. Yeah.
So good. All right. So at 100%, obviously a watch for me too. Halligan's, this is it. We're going to get into spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled, and I mean, spoiled or not, you're really going to enjoy this movie, I think. But if you don't want to be spoiled, now's the time to get out. So,
I
this,
just want to make
oh,
a comment that I forgot.
okay.
You're talking about the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I believe the house he's in is the same house Bruce Wayne lives in Bats v Soups and Justice League. Or if it's not, it's real similar.
Real similar.
It's basically a glass shoebox.
Oh my God. It's such a pimp house. It's so nice.
And actually, for a second, I thought it was Selma Hayek in his bed. I was like, is this going to be a thing that it's like, I guess I just wasn't watching that closely because I was thinking about, is this the house from Justice League? But yeah, I was like, is that? And then Samuel Jackson marries her. I don't. But
No.
anyway,
So movie starts out, as I said, he's a super hotshot bodyguard guy.
AAA
He's
rated.
triple A rated.
Driving some kind of Jag,
Oh
like high
man.
end Jag in London, like with this entourage and a helicopter. And
I mean, he's protecting this
oh
guy and
man,
he's doing a fantastic job. And all of a sudden, the guy's leaving, gets on the plane, boom, shot in the head.
mm-hmm.
And that just demolishes his career. And you see, I think it says 2 years later, and he's trying to protect this shitbag guy.
Yeah, coked out lawyer, I think he says.
Yeah, it.
And they once again have a peeing scene. Why can't we get away from those? I mean, I feel like it was a problem for a long time in movies that they always ignored, like bodily functions and sleep and eating and things like that. But now, I mean, it's a little too much. We don't need to see Ryan Reynolds peeing in his Ford Focus or whatever.
See, no, that it ended up that came back around.
It did.
They didn't just do it to do it. That ends up coming back around. It was. I wondered that myself.
You know what?
But,
You know what? You're right. You're right. I take it back. Because in the Lighthouse, they kind of do it and they make a joke out of it at one point. In Nomadland, it's a whole thing, just a lifestyle thing. In this, you're right. It did kind of serve a purpose.
So, okay, I want to talk about Gary Oldman real quick because when he pops up, you got the man of 1,000 voices, and he's the bad guy. He's this character called Dukovich. He is the president of Belarus,
Yeah.
I believe it says, and he's fantastic.
He's really good.
He's a bad guy who's a bad guy, like doing bad guy things.
Mm-hmm.
Like soon as you see him, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
super, super good. Yeah, it got real dark real fast.
Right?
When he kills that dude's family, he's like, if I
Mhm.
kill you, somebody's just going to stand a little taller on your corpse. Family's like, I forget what he says exactly. He's like, family makes a man whole.
Right?
And oh man, and the comment about education, the importance of a good education, and that this is a learning experience for him.
Right?
You know, he's like I said, education. It's like, oh my God.
Cold-blooded.
Dude. Yeah.
Oh, see, there's your soundboard. I need Rick James. Cold-blooded.
Or Journey.
Oh, okay. All right. No, not Journey, Foreigner.
Oh, you're right. It is Foreigner.
Yep. And I only know that because my girlfriend took me to see a concert with Foreigner once, and it was pretty fantastic. They still put on a hell of a show.
Yeah, you're right. I totally thought of the wrong thing. I've
this
ruined
character
myself.
Of Dukovich, he's not even in this movie that much. Mostly at the end, but for the most part, it focuses on our two main characters. You've got Ryan Reynolds, who plays this character named Bryce. That's his last name. And then he meets up with Sam Jackson through a series of events, and his character's name is Kincaid.
Yeah, Darius Kincaid. Michael Bryce and Darius Kincaid.
It's one of these things that, as I said, you've seen this before. As soon as they meet each other, they've met, they know each other, and they fucking hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
And they immediately get into a fight. And just like when you see before then, you see Ryan Reynolds protecting this shitty lawyer guy. He does a couple things. He's a badass. They're both badasses.
Yes.
So when they get into a fight, it's the action in this, the fighting, the gunplay. It's well done.
Yeah, it's really well done. I even like the way that they told the story. They cut from Ryan Reynolds in the car peeing in like an apple juice bottle or whatever to going into the office, telling the guy like, all right, you're going to come with me. You're going to follow me. I'm going to go through the doors first, stuff like that. And then he gets outside and makes the phone call. Like, okay, we need, you have this many here. And it shows how he took out all these guys ahead of time.
Right.
Like found the people who were waiting for this dude and got them already. Like it's done. It's like, oh, is that your car? Yep, we'll take a mental picture of it. And like even saves the guy's dog. He's like, by the way, I found this in the back.
Yeah, like he's a good bodyguard.
But it's also, they didn't tell it exactly straight. It wasn't linear. Didn't show him getting out of the car and going and doing all this stuff and then going to find the guy. It told it in a more interesting way and kind of, I don't know, more satisfying way maybe. For me at least. I really liked it. Yeah, it's like it was tight and it just worked so well. Like it showed that he still had it. He didn't need that huge team. He could do all this stuff on his own.
I I think the best part about that scene with him getting him out of there was the guy gets in his car and he said, "Smells like ass back here." And it was the beginning of this running gag throughout the rest of the movie that I thought was fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man.
That was great. One of the things that I picked out that I saw coming almost immediately. There's another character in this. Her name, she's Agent Roselle, and she's the one who brings Bryce into this. And they have a history together. They used to be together when he was AAA rated. And from the very beginning of this, I picked. Well, they're going to get back together. It was, and that is exactly what happened. And I was okay with it. How they
Yeah.
went about it, how when he tries to apologize to her on the phone, and
Well,
she's like, "The fuck are
yeah.
you talking about? Where are you? Why are you not here yet?"
He forgives her, he says.
Right. Oh my. Right. He forgives her. Oh my
Like
god.
she says at one point early in the movie when they're first together with
Mm-hmm.
Kincaid in the safe house,
Yeah.
like that you blamed me for something I didn't do, and that's why we broke up. And then he's like, I forgive you. Oh, that feels so good to say. Like, I forgive you. It's okay. And she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
You can't forgive me for something I didn't do.
Right. Yeah. And Sam Jackson gives him good advice. Like, chicks don't like that. Like, you can't tell your girl that you forgive her because you're implying she did something
Right.
that needs forgiven. Like, oh, man. And the
Sam
dialogue.
Jackson honestly had some okay, just really good lines in the movie. One of the ones I wrote down, uh Bryce doesn't want Kincaid to be in harm's way. He responds, "Shit, motherfucker, I am harm's way."
Yes, that was good. Yeah. A lot of his lines were really, really well done.
But a lot of his lines that had to do with a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
loving someone. I mean, if you have any need some relationship advice, watch this movie.
Yes.
Like he gave some honest, great advice.
Yeah. Yeah, he really did. The scene that I alluded to before that they allowed to breathe was him meeting Selma Hayek's character.
Oh my god.
That that scene was so, oh my god, it was so good. And she calls him her cockroach.
Yep. La
And that's where
cucaracha.
they met. Yeah. Oh my god. I was like, did I hear that right?
Yep.
Because she said it and they didn't show any subtitles. And it's like, I'm pretty sure she just called him a cockroach. And then they show that's where they met. Oh man. And the whole like she's like bent over the pool table and he like drops the cigarette out of his mouth or whatever's going on. Like that look comes over his face. He's like, I knew. Like I saw her lay down violence like I've never seen before or
Oh
whatever.
my god, she annihilated those guys.
Yes.
It was great.
It was like Rorschach in prison. It was that bad.
It kind of was.
She was like, you're locked in here with me.
Is it? Are you saying that because I just sent you that shit?
No.
Really? I just sent you that scene.
I didn't even.
It happened to come up on some Pinterest or something. I'm like, it's one of my favorite scenes from that movie, and I just felt like sending it. I can't believe it wasn't because I sent that. That's
No,
amazing.
I didn't even look at it yet. I looked at a couple of the things, but I've been out all day. Oh man, but yeah, it's so good, and a lot of the advice is really good. I love the dialogue. I love the way the characters talk to each other, particularly the scene where Kincaid reveals that he's the one that killed Kurosawa. Like,
Oh my
I think
gosh.
that was his name, the client that
Yes.
he lost, like the one client he lost, and he was blaming her, Roussel, right?
Right.
Because he revealed the client's name to her, and it was the only time he ever did it, and he got killed. So he's like, clearly you did something, like you told somebody to advance your career or whatever. And they're going through, he's explaining that he just happened to be in the area and
Yeah,
saw this
it
guy
was
and he like doubled his
pure
money
luck.
doing it. And he just starts laughing. He's like, dude, that was me. I thought you knew that was me. And he's like, what? And he's just staring at him and he's like processing this. And I was like, in any other movie ever made, this is going to be a huge fight. And I really hope that's not what they do, because I see that 100 miles away. And he just like, Ryan Reynolds is just looking at him and just pop. just pops him once in the nose and walks away. And
And
Samuel
then
Jackson's like,
they
"What?"
start yelling shit back and forth at each other.
Oh my god, it's so good.
It's so good.
Oh man, he's like, "You're still not over that? You're gonna be a bitch about it?" Oh
That was like 2 years ago.
yeah.
Whatever it was.
Oh
Oh,
man, yeah, and it's just so much. Yeah, so much of the dialogue is so well done. The jokes don't hurt me. They're not out of nowhere. They don't take a super serious scene. Like, I don't know. It feels like the Marvel humor that I complain about, at least. Like, they'll throw it in anywhere in a really serious situation, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. It worked really well for Thor because he was a really serious character, and they had to loosen him up to make people
right.
like him. Because the first two Thor movies, not that great.
See,
This one,
I disagree with that. The second one, meh. I really liked the first one.
okay, I like the first one too, but he lacked a lot of the charisma that the other characters had. And I think that's because there was no real humor to him.
I can get that.
And I think that's why they're pushing that so much, because it worked so well in Guardians and then Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but there's so much humor that works really well. I mean, even jokes that you wouldn't think they would try, like when Kincaid passes out from blood loss after that really cool back and forth with
Right.
Bryce. Like, he passes out and he's on the ground and they're talking about him, and he's talking to Russell and he's like, "All right, you grab the feet, I'll get the nostrils." Like, just this, oh god, it's just so good. Like, this jab, it's just, he's super witty, you know? Like, the things he does, I feel like the wit that they give him kind of lets you know that he's on the ball, you know? Like,
He's
he's
on the
quick.
ball.
Yeah, mentally he's very quick.
Yes.
Like, he comes up with these insults really fast, and I don't know. The point where Kincaid is like singing this song, which, by the way, in the soundtrack is credited to Samuel Jackson. I don't know if he actually wrote it. I didn't do any more research, but
Oh my gosh.
he is credited as the artist. But
That's great.
yeah, he and Ryan Reynolds starts singing some other goofy song that it's like, I don't remember even what it was, but
He was singing
like,
Ace of Base.
yeah, and he was singing like real high pitched and just like clearly trying to be annoying.
And not at all working.
No. And
like,
then
he could just sit there and sing that, and Sam Jackson character wouldn't give a fuck because
Nope.
he's not going to let that get to him.
No.
Unlike what Sam Jackson's character's doing, and it's totally getting under his skin.
Yeah. Yeah. And like when, yeah, and it comes to a head, the getting under his skin after the reveal that he killed the client. And then he's sitting at this little bar in Amsterdam, this outdoor cafe bar thing, like talking to the bartender.
Yep.
Being like, this is what he would say. He'd say, blah, 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 motherfucker. He's like, he ruined the phrase motherfucker. How do you even ruin that?
I did. I wrote that down. He single-handedly ruined the word motherfucker. Oh my gosh. It was so good. It's in my notes. And one thing I want to say about this, and you just talked about Sam Jackson being credited to that song he was singing, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The music in this was fantastic.
The music was so good, yeah.
Some of the music choice when Kincaid meets his wife is amazing.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I was going to name specific songs, but all of it is so good.
It's so good.
Like when they go into Amsterdam, that music is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is it? That doesn't even, Little Queenie, I think. Right? Chuck Berry. They play Chuck Berry when Ryan Reynolds is in the kitchen. They've got Ram Jam playing during one of the chase scenes. Like, just all of it is so good. I could just go through every song and like talk about why it's so good. And
yeah, and really well placed in the movie.
Yeah, it worked really well. And again, it's one of those things where it's not what you would expect to be in that spot.
Right?
Like, it just based on your experience with other movies, but it works so well.
It is. It's one of the reasons that it's so well done. It's stuff like that. And one of the things that I thought of while watching this, and have seen this in plenty of other movies, TV shows, whatever, don't get into a fight in the kitchen. Like, oh my gosh. Like, that's one of the last places I want to get into a fight with somebody.
Yep. It's a good way to get your face flame grilled. And
any other, like, he threw a cast iron pan and hit that guy in the head. Like, give me a break.
Yeah. But, and it's clear that this movie was planned very well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a great example of how coherent a movie can be with no interference. or none that I could detect.
Oh, like studio interference?
Yeah, where they have to reshoot something or whatever, and it kind
Right.
of screws up the way some of it flows because there are jokes, like you said, the car smelling.
Yep.
Multiple people say stuff about it. He's arguing in the one scene when he gets the call from Russell with a car cleaner about the car smelling. He's like, "Did you do anything or not?" Like, okay, I'm just going to buy all of these air fresheners. We're going to take the car out front and we're going to burn it. And he's talking about that, like he was transporting some guy who had a bunch of meth or heroin or something, like stored up his ass,
Oh, Coke, I think up his ass.
something
Yeah.
like that, and just like let it out all over the back seat. And then he's like, "And these are cloth, not
It's called
leather.
you.
Think about that." Like, and then yeah, you're saying the one guy was like, "Smells like ass back here," and then Kincaid is in the car. He's like, "Man, it smells like ass. I bet the jag didn't smell like ass." And then they're later on, they get in that fight with the henchmen who are after them, and they're walking through a cow pasture, and Kincaid says, "This field smells like your car."
It was really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
If and it didn't necessarily end the way I expected it to. I enjoyed it. It was fulfilling. If I could give you one gripe with this movie, I think I only wrote down one thing that I thought bugged me. So, towards the end of the movie, one of the problems that has arisen is that the organization that Rosell is with, there's this mole in the organization that's feeding Dukovic information. You find out pretty early on that that mole is her direct boss. And towards the end of the movie, something's going to happen. Her boss leaves, starts to leave the area, and she's like, what's going on?" And she follows him, and they get into it as other things are happening around them, and they're in their own one-on-one fight scene. I did not like the fact that Bryce had to save her.
Mm,
I understood it, but I would have preferred she's a trained agent. I would have preferred her by herself taking out her boss and letting her be the star of that moment. Because
I get that.
otherwise, she hasn't really done, except for bringing Bryce into this and being, the love story. Okay,
Love interest.
except for bringing Bryce into this and then being his love interest, I didn't feel that she got to do a whole lot. She kind of figured out it was her boss towards the end there after trusting him the whole time. So I think it could have been more fulfilling to just let her win that.
Yeah, I understand. But I also get why they did it the way they did it.
I get it too.
I
I
mean,
agree.
it was something that they said, like that her boss even said, like, "How did you screw this up?" Like when he's talking about them trying to take out Kincaid. He's like, "I put like an upstart in charge with almost no experience. I put like the worst people. I put a small team on it." So they kind of, there are a couple things to imply that she's still fairly early in her career, at least with Interpol, and trying
Yeah.
to move up. So I kind of got that maybe she's a little inexperienced, but I understand what you're saying. It's like she's in her prime, and this old dude is a challenge, but we don't know his deal or what he's gone through, like what
Absolutely.
his training is or his background. And I felt like that end scene was kind of more of a redemption for Bryce. That he took his bullet for the first time, right? They foreshadowed
Right.
that way early on.
Yeah,
Like, I've
yeah.
never taken a bullet. Kincaid's like, "I've been shot more times than I can count." He's like, "I've never been shot at all." So he takes a bullet for Kincaid.
Right.
And
That's
then
full service right there.
yeah, and then he goes to find her. Like, he's shot and he still goes to try to find her and help her. And when she asks him how he is, he's like, "I'm all good." But he says it in French.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's another thing, consistency. At the beginning of the movie, he also said, like, "I don't speak French. I never learned French for you." Like, it would have been a thing that he would have done for her. And then she leaves him there and he says shit in French.
Yeah.
The first
He
kind of hint that he actually does understand French, he really did learn it for her, but he doesn't want to tell her that.
right.
And then he says that in French, and it's like this redeeming moment, like, "I was injured. I still came to help you, and I learned this for you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little self-serving, and I don't know. You're right. There's more that she could have done, but no movie's completely perfect.
This was pretty close.
It's pretty
It
fucking
was
close.
exactly what I needed it to be for us trying to watch something that was as far away from what we just watched as we could. I just I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as serious as a John Wick, but I had just as much fun with it.
Yes. Yeah, it was super fun. It actually seemed in some ways maybe a little bit more realistic because at least they're not getting shot a whole bunch and still like carrying on.
Mm,
You know what I mean? John
I
Wick
got you.
has some really ridiculous moments, like falling off the roof and surviving somehow, shit like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's almost nothing I didn't like about it. I there are just so many great moments in this movie. Like Samuel Jackson, he goes just flying off that roof. He's like, "So how do we
Yep.
get out of here?" And Ryan and Bryce is looking down. He's like, "Well, I don't like our odds getting into that dumpster." And then the next thing you know, he just comes flying over, like whacks off that scaffolding, falls into the thing. He's like, "Hey, I made that jump one legged." Ryan Reynolds is like, "I made it without jumping," because he just like jumped across and climbed down.
Right. Oh my goodness.
It's so
The
good. The
the
only
back and forth between those two throughout the entire movie was so great.
Yeah, I like that they made fun of each other, like poked fun at each other, but they both understood that they needed each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they looked out for each other. Like they made it in such a ridiculous movie. They made it believable that a friendship developed. And they're talking and they're learning about each other, and they have this fantastic thing where Kincaid is telling him about his first contract. I'm using air quotes here. Was because some crazy guy killed this preacher, right?
Who you end up finding out was his dad,
Yeah, his biological father, and that
right?
Kincaid was his stepfather's name that he took to
Mm-hmm.
try to like please him. And yeah, it's so well done. It's so well done. Learning about each other, like becoming friends, caring about each other. The thing that Kincaid says at the end about like where you fucked up is you shot my bodyguard. Like it's so good the way that scene played out, that end scene. That was one of the ones where I was like, I have no clue what's going to happen here. I know what a
Right.
normal Hollywood movie would do, or like primetime TV show, but I have no clue here, and they handled it so well.
I really enjoyed the fact they were in Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I got some personal enjoyment out of that because thanks to my brother, I've been to Amsterdam, and it's compared to being anywhere here in America, it's so unique. The architecture is a big deal there. I even got to see a couple of buildings. I was like, "Oh, I know that place," and it was really cool for me. The boat going through all the canals, that was really fun, and just the scene where he Kincaid he buys some flowers and
Mm.
this hat, and he climbs up to this clock tower that's been prefaced earlier in the movie from his wife who is stuck in prison in Amsterdam, and he puts this out there for her to see. And then
Yeah.
he's talking to Bryce about it. He's like, I might not see her again for a long time. This had to be special. I had to do this. It's like you just send a delivery guy. No, I had to do this myself.
Yeah.
And just some moments, like he said, what's the point of doing all this badass shit if I can't come home and tell my woman about it?
Right.
Like, what's the point? There was some better, more emotional things in this than I was expecting from a movie like this that's just supposed to be goofy and fun and action packed. And that surprised me in ways I didn't expect it to, which also probably, I mean, it's one of the things that helped make it as memorable and as good as it was.
Trying to find her name, her character name. It's bothering me that I can't remember it.
Sonia.
Sonia. Okay.
And she just, her talking to, I guess, some Interpol guys who were like, well, we lost your husband and she just, oh, that scene with them
Lays into him. Yeah.
lays
Super
into
good.
them.
She's talking about like your lawyer called, but your lawyer said he didn't actually call. And she's like, he's drunk. And he says like all this terrible stuff. That's a terrible place to stick children's toys. I don't understand.
So good. So, just like making shit up on it was so good. I actually feel bad now throughout this entire review that we've done. I think I've said so good like 32 times.
It's really, really good. This
It is.
this deserved it. I mean, especially after the stuff we've been watching. Yeah, you're right. It is Sonya. I double checked it on IMDb.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you fucking doubt me?
I did. Yeah, I'll
Oh,
admit it. I'll admit it.
I'm ashamed. I'm saddened.
Oh, you're sad. Joey the
I'm
Mouth is saddened.
I'm saddened and hurt and saddened. I don't know how I'll
this
ever get over this.
this was a better love story than any Hallmark movie I've ever seen. Right?
I mean,
Because those are terrible. Those are based off nothing. This was based off like realizing this was a story of someone like, okay, you've got Kincaid and his wife, Darius and Sonia,
right.
right? We know their connection. We understand why they work well together. Their personalities are very similar. They fell in love by accident. They care about each other. They show it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he sings to her on the phone. He finds a way to get in contact with her. Like the first thing he does when he's more free than he should be is calls her.
Yep.
And then on the other side, we've got Bryce, like kind of still resentful of his ex, thinking that she did something to harm his career. And he spends a lot of the movie trying to come to terms with the fact that that's not really what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And with his own problems, his own, I don't know, his
It's
quirks and the
it's
things with his
coming to
person.
terms with the fact that he knows the entire time that it was him. It was all him. That everything that happened was because of him, and he just used her as a scapegoat. But he couldn't admit it. Whether he was too stubborn, he lied enough to himself that he believed it, and him coming to terms with that through. And it took the whole movie for him to get there.
Well, I buy that he might have thought initially that she had told somebody, but he had to come to terms with the fact that he needed to, well, he had to learn to trust her, you know, give her the benefit of the doubt. And then he finds out, like, yeah, she was telling the truth the whole time.
Yep.
And he has to kind of own up to that he was blaming her for this thing. Like you're saying, it was, he convinced himself of it so completely that he couldn't see past it anymore. And the little things that he does for her, like, you know, speaking French to her, things like that, it
Mm-hmm.
are more touching than what I've seen in most of those made for TV romance movies. Not that I've watched a lot of them, but it happens sometimes. I visit my folks. My mom watches a lot of those. They end up on the TV while we're sitting around the table talking. And usually
Yeah.
they're terrible. It's like your relationship, the story's almost always the same. Almost always the same. The woman who's the lead is hardworking and career driven and often in a long-term relationship with somebody she's known for a very long time. And New York is almost always involved. They're either about
New
to move to
York
New
or
York.
a small town you've never heard of?
Well, it's both. They end up in a small town you've never heard of. And they decide, because they've been there for a couple weeks and it's nice slowing down and being in this relaxing town where everybody knows each other, that they're going to stay there. Because really what matters is slowing down and being around for Christmas or whatever, and marrying the dude who runs the Christmas tree lot and wears the blue sweater and whatever stuff, because that's more important than your 5-year relationship and the career you've worked your entire life for. Like, I gotta calm down. I hate those movies so much because they're so backward. They're like, I mean, family is important. Loved ones are important. Abandoning your career and your ambitions because you value your relationship status more than anything else in your life, and because you spent a week in a small town waiting for your car to get fixed, that's not a great basis for uprooting your life and changing everything, right?
Agreed.
And this did a much better job of showing a relationship that is working well, even though it's crazy, and another relationship that fell apart for a reason you can pinpoint, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then how, you know, sometimes it is one person's problem. In this case, it was Bryce's problem.
Yeah, it was surprisingly romantic.
Yeah, it was super, super good.
Which I also thought that about a movie that I know you don't like, and that's Zack and Miri Make a Porno,
Mm.
because I know you don't like Seth Rogen, but I really enjoyed that movie, and it was one of the better love stories I've seen, especially in some sort of off the wall comedy type movie, I really enjoyed the things that happened in that. And this, I think, is similar in that fact that you're not expecting to get that out of a movie like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Totally out of nowhere that it was so competent on so many fronts. The friendship, them realizing, and without ever saying it, we're not so different, you and I.
Right?
Yeah. They learn that from each of their perspective, they're the good guy and why they feel that way.
Yeah, that was
I
really
love
good.
Sam Jackson's line, like, who's worse, the guy killing the scumbags or the one protecting them, or however he refers to them after the scene in the bus with all the nuns.
Oh my god.
And he's like, whose lap am I sitting on?
And he spoke Italian. They all loved it. It was great.
Yeah, and they're all singing. Well, they're all except Bryce singing songs.
He's just sitting there stoically.
Yeah.
Just dealing with it, but he hates it.
Yeah. And Kincaid's just having a good time. It's like a guy who is at peace with his life.
Right?
Yeah. So that's it for me. I'm done.
I've absolutely hit everything I wanted to hit.
Okay, I mean, one gripe.
Oh.
When they pull up to the plane, the scene where the first client gets killed.
Right.
There is a person holding a pillow with a samurai, or what do you call it, katana on it, right?
Right. Okay.
Why? That's it. That's my only complaint. That didn't make any sense. Visually interesting. Didn't make any sense. She was just holding that sword, I guess, in case he needed a sword when he walked up, and then he didn't. So she just
a cultural thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because samurai swords are cool. I think so.
Yeah, when you're talking about gripes, like I couldn't think of any. And as you were talking, it's like, okay, there's one. I didn't understand why that was there, except that it looked interesting.
Okay.
So, yep, 100% watch. Total watch. Loved this movie. It was fantastic. Super excited.
Obviously,
for the next one.
You bought it. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Ugh. It reminded me of, as far as something that surprised me like that, and I meant to look it up. It was one of our earlier reviews. The guy who gets the chip implanted in him.
Upgrade.
Yeah, that movie. Really good.
Yep.
Surprised me. Didn't know I was going to like it that much. This kind of was like that. Just really enjoyed everything about it.
Yep. I sat down to watch this and I was like, I don't know that I really want to watch one of these. Like, because there's so many movies that are kind of these action-y, spy-y ones. They're not, they're not the normal franchises you're used to. They're not going to be super serious about it. There's a lot of them that seem to be kind of floating around in that space. They come out from time to time and they're more or less forgettable.
Yeah.
But I was just so surprised by how good it was. Just the dialogue was great. I was just laughing throughout so much of the movie. Just the jokes were so good. The way they made fun of each other constantly, and it never devolved into like anything too personal. There's the joke about the nostril. Sam Jackson's like, what's with these hipster clothes, but it's never a thing where they like dwell on that stuff, and they never take it too far.
Right. They don't need to keep hitting you over the head. Hey, did you get it? I said this. It was fun. Did you get it?
Yeah, like a Melissa McCarthy movie or something like that. It's not where they want to hit you over the head with the humor. It's just, it's there. It's part of it. It's part of the dialogue. The dialogue is sharp. It's witty. Yeah. Cannot recommend it enough.
Hooligans, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think we have anything else we can talk about. All we can say is go watch this movie. If you missed it like we had, and it's been on my radar a long time. I'm really glad we got a chance to watch it. I can now mark it off of my list because I know it was one of the ones on my list for us to watch.
It's a little gory, so watch your kids. But it's probably not worse than anything in a video game. Like it is what it is. It's not meant for little kids. There's a lot of swearing in it, but it's so good, and it's so lighthearted. It's like there's 100 people that died in this movie, and it's so lighthearted. Because they're just they're like stormtroopers.
Right?
Just keep taking out the stormtroopers. Oh, and it kind of made me want to buy a Ford C-Max. Because that's a durable little car.
Apparently it is. When they're looking at the two cars like, I bet that one doesn't smell like ass. If it is, that's supermodel ass.
Yeah, there's a Jag and a Ford next to each other.
Uh-huh.
And
And he's
Bryce
like,
is
"Oh
looking
yeah,
at the
we're
Ford. He's like, yeah.
So yeah, everybody go watch this. We hope you enjoyed us talking about it. We might have gotten carried away. This one might be longer than it should have for, just how much we liked it, what was in it. And remember, Gary Oldman, great bad guy. We barely talked about him, but
He was so good. Yeah, he's
so
always great in
good.
everything he's in. I mean, it's almost boring how good he is. Right? It's like he is the person he's supposed to be. I wasn't even
Yep.
positive it was him at first. Like, I don't know what Russian is supposed to sound like, but I was 100% convinced that he was actually saying the stuff that he was supposed to be saying. The way he acted was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
His body language was great. The way he looked, the way he held himself through all of it. He's a great bad guy. He's great at anything he does.
He is.
Gary Oldman is
And
fantastic.
as soon as I saw him, like, oh, he's the bad guy, I got excited.
Mm-hmm.
I straight up got him like, oh, I just knew. I'm like, we're going to have a good bad guy. And I've talked about that before. Good movie. Got to have a good bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And this hit on all cylinders. Everything that you could want this movie to deliver, it delivered. That's it. Go out and watch it. That's it. That's all I'm saying about it. Go watch it.
That's it. Yep.
All right, Halligans, you know where to hit us up. We've got our socials. I'm hitting up our Twitter at Movie Howl. Ryan's hitting up everything else he's got at moviehowl@gmail.
Yep. And at ManPanda on Twitter. We want to hear what you have to say. We're also on YouTube. We just want comments. We want feedback. What do you like? What do you not like? Let us know. We want to hear what you have to say.
Recommend something. We'll review it.
Yeah, recommendations. This is actually making me think, just talking about Gary Oldman, the movie Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
That's a little older one.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
I love what is it, John le Carré? Yeah, it's based off of a John le Carré novel, the George Smiley novels. And that's who he plays in this.
Okay.
And it's, like I was saying before, it's part of his physicality, the way he carries himself. Really well done. It works really well for this character and the way this movie is shot. It's a movie that does not like spoon feed you anything. Like, you have to pay attention. There are certain people that we know who didn't get it because they can't stop looking at their phone.
I mean,
right? You have to pay attention to this movie.
Some movies you absolutely have to watch the screen, listen, and pay attention.
Yeah, Gary Oldman conveys so much about his character and what he's doing just through his body language and expressions, and it's fantastic. Anyway, just an aside about how great Gary Oldman is. This whole movie, the cast is great, everything is great, dialogue is great. So, yeah, go out, watch it, have a good time.
Buy it. Like, go buy it. Buy 2 copies. Give one to a friend.
Yeah, it's only, 7 months till Christmas? I don't know what month it is.
Absolutely. Get some early Christmas shopping done. Come on.
What is this, March 400th of 2020?
Yeah, something like that.
All right, that's it. Bye.
Bye, all.